Tuesday afternoon to all. Yours truly, Joshua Garcia here for PTV News Now. Topping our breaking stories for this late afternoon, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. earlier today apprised his audience and the nation at large of government's latest efforts in its crusade against corruption, a two-pronged mix of greater people participation and digitalization. In his address at the 5th State Conference of the United Nations Conference Against Corruption, Implementation and Review, the President stressed streamlining and digitizing government transactions and work methods will discourage and deny corrupt practices in the bureaucracy with more public access and transparency. For the digitalization part, the President cited the new Government Procurement Act, which standardizes electronic bidding and payment by way of government's electronic procurement system. On greater public participation, the President cited more people engaging in good governance by way of the Electronic Freedom of Information platform. Yesterday's announcement of the President's pardon of his son Hunter on his 2 felony raps, illegal gun possession and income tax evasion, stunned the Washington, D.C. establishment and drew immediate flack from both sides of the political aisle. With mouths still buzzing and tongues still wagging in disbelief on and off Washington, D.C., the fact is the President is mulling more people to grant the presidential seal of absolution for their federal and/or criminal transgressions before the clock strikes midnight on the 21st of next month. Potus Biden has issued 25 pardons thus far before Hunter's yesterday. Meanwhile, former President boss Barack Obama granted executive clemency to over 1,900 individuals during his 2-year term. George W. Bush Jr. issued 200 pardons at the end of his term in presidency in 2009. For his part, President-elect Donald Trump pardoned 237 individuals in his first term as U.S. President. And one better believe the President and his staff are in review of the cases of people serving time right now and could well be free before America begins its appointment with the Trump 2.0 presidency over the next 4 years. The exiled Russian opposition group mulls a unified strategy ahead of the Trump's official inauguration as the 47th President of the United States. The group looks to Trump to fulfill his campaign promise to end Russia's war in Ukraine, even if it meant losing American support for Ukraine's efforts against Russia. VOA Special Correspondent Elizabeth Cherneff narrates this report from Ricardo Marquina.
After nearly 3 years of full-scale war in Ukraine, the Russian opposition to President Vladimir Putin is at a difficult crossroads. With the movement's prominent figures in exile and those left behind forced to remain silent or face imprisonment, the opposition finds itself with no clear leadership. One of Putin's main opponents, Ilya Yashin, welcomes us in Berlin, where he resides after being released from a Russian prison as part of a historic swap in August.
The Russian opposition had a leader, Boris Nemtsov. He was killed. The Russian opposition had another leader, Alexei Navalny. He was arrested and poisoned in prison. Today, there is no current task to join around one person. It seems to me that it is much more important to consolidate around common values.
The values of freedom and justice underpin the opposition's demands at a big November demonstration in Berlin, namely the withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukrainian soil, freedom for political prisoners in Russia, and bringing Putin to justice. The transfer of power in Washington next month is cause for concern among Russia's opposition in exile, which is waiting to see whether Donald Trump's pledge to quickly achieve peace in Ukraine will represent a radical change in military and political support for Kyiv. Trump has pledged to end the war before he takes office, but not said how. During a campaign debate in September, he refused to say that he wants Ukraine to win.
Until now, in the U.S. Congress, both Democrats and Republicans agree that Ukraine must be supported and that Putin is an aggressor. Now, another president will come, but we think the Congress continues to allocate money and will continue to allocate money to Ukraine.
But focusing solely on the actions or desires of the new administration is misguided, say some observers who consider it naive to think Putin wants peace.
From Putin's point of view, the Russian army is advancing. The economy continues to hold. Now, for the Kremlin, there is no need to compromise. So I would say that Trump will really try, but sooner or later, most likely, the United States will return to help Ukraine. The war will continue.
The war in Ukraine has been escalating ahead of the coming changes in Washington. Trump takes office January 20th. Meanwhile, exiled members of Russia's anti-war movement are trying to find a way to address a new reality. For Ricardo Marquina in Berlin, Elizabeth Chernev, VOA News.
And that's a wrap for this afternoon's breaking stories. Join us anew later on for the evening news breakers. Remember always to stay connected by catching the news right here. This is Joshua Garcia, and thank you for watching PTV News Now.